Hi and welcome back to Programming with R and Matlab. My name is Jan and I'm Finance Teaching Assistant at Stockholm Business School. Today we continue our course in coding in MATLAB and we're going to work next on our project and we are going to focus ourselves on moving average filtering. But we're going to make a small change before this to our structure. We're going to make one big matrix which is going to be a size time of periods out of 10. Pretty much it will represent our portfolio, and we are going to say that if we hold a specific share, we put its ID from the big matrix into this new one big portfolio matrix, so that we can then track it back to so that pretty much we can track it by our ID and link specific share in our portfolio to the big data matrix. So, and if we hold less than 10 assets, we will just put 0 in the table. So the thing is that IDs in the matrices, they cannot be less than 1. Usually you cannot address to the 0 element in the matrix, so there is no 0 row or 0 column. This is why if you don't have anything, you can just put 0 and then we can put something to check if the ID is more than 0 or not. Pretty much it will look like this. So in this example we have just 4 time periods, but for sure we're going to have big amount of time periods. So let's take a look at the time period 1. So in this example we have 10 stocks, which and these are the ID. So pretty much this is stock which has ID 10 in the general our big general matrix of all the stocks. The same applies here. This is the second stock from our biggest general ID of stocks. Then, for example, let's say time period of 2. We are holding only 7 assets, 7 stocks, and this one are equal to 0, so we know that there is nothing in here. And the same like in time 4, we do not hold any stock at all. This is just a very small change which I made to make the code more simple and more representative as well. And also it would be nice for you to see how to work with different matrices and how you can make a cross references. Okay, so today we're going to work on the next block, which is called a moving average rule, and we're going to apply in our list moving average rule. So before this we need to calculate the moving average, and let's quickly do it. Let's go to MATLAB here. So as you can see, this is our data. This is where we stopped last time, and this is the our load stock data function. So today we are going to work on this field, so data id.ma, and we're going to write it in a separate block, or pretty much in a separate function, so that we can easily track the changes in our code and we can easily debug it if there is some problems with it. So let's do it. Let's call, so instead of making, so first we were going to change this thing. So now it just assigns an empty data, so nothing, but we would like it to get a value. So to get it a value, we're going to say that is going to be, let's call function get ma, and then we're going to give some input in here. We do not know yet. We're going to specify it later, but we definitely need to write it here. So let's make a mark. Actually, I can make a mark over here, so that you will see that there is something. It's actually called breakpoints, but we can make a mark that there is something in here we are missing, or you can comment it. Like, do not forget to write something. But the thing is that I usually prefer to do it like this, so that then I will always see that I have missing in here. So in here I'm missing the arguments, and like write input. Okay, so let's create a function which will give us back MA. Yeah, if you have only one, you can omit brackets. And then you call this get MA, and then you will need some data. Let's say write some code, and so that we're not. So what we will need to calculate the moving average, we need actually the prices, and also we need to know which exactly MA is going to be. So for how long time, for how long data frame, or how long time span you need to take to calculate this moving average. So in our example it is 50 days. So we can write here from the very beginning that if we're going to use data ID prices, so it means that we're taking all the prices in here, this one, and then we are going to also specify the number of periods, which is 50, so that we are getting moving average, which is calculated for the last 50 days. And here we're going to specify it. We will need prices. Oh, excuse me, prices, and let's call it days. So as you can see, the thing what I'm putting in here and here, they're different, and as well as last time, here it was not that much obvious, but here it's obvious that pretty much we are not writing data ID prices, we're just writing prices. The reason for this is that these functions, they're acting a little bit like a sandbox. So the only thing which is getting out of it is these things, and this thing is get in. So whatever information you put here, like for example here I'm just specifying stock data, it creates a new variable and writes this information back, and then you can use it through the whole function. The same thing goes in here, so pretty much it is creating a new variable prices, which will be used only for this function, and then in this variable prices it writes inside get this data ID prices, and the same for days. And then after the whole script of this function is gone or pretty much executed, we are getting only an MA, and all other data which are not put into output in here will be destroyed. For example, in this function, RF, which we calculated here, will be in fact destroyed if we will just run it as is, because it's not mentioned in these lines. But we're going to use it to calculate for our further calculations in Sharpe and Trainer ratio, so it's okay. Good. Let's come back. So now we need to calculate MA. Now we're going to create an empty matrix. Create an empty matrix which of MA, which is going to. It's not a crucial point. I mean, so here we created an empty database, and here we're creating an empty matrix. It's not obligatory to do it each time, but it's better if you do it, because then sometimes you may get into troubles because MATLAB will not be able to recognize which type of the data you are working with. This is the first thing. And secondly, it's called pre-allocation, or if you declare that you are going to use this variable before you're actually using it, MATLAB works faster. So, and this is what we want. We don't want to wait for days. So we're going to call it MA, and here we used repmat as this. We can use it as well, but it's better to create it using another comment which is called zeros. Pretty much it creates a matrix or each element of which is 0, and all you need to specify here is the dimensions of the matrix, and we're going to use size prices, So this is just as simple as this, and then of course suppress it so we're not seeing it. Then if you recall, you need to calculate a moving average for each data point of all of your number of time span or lifespan or time span. Here again, the word each, which means loop. So now we're going to say for, and let's call it time. For time equal from number of days, so that we can take the average, plus 1, because we're not counting this date, we're counting only the last all the 50 days before the current date, and then we're going to make it until the size of prices 1. So pretty much what I'm doing here, I'm trying to treat it as a num time, but actually let's do it like this, just num time. Let's add num time here and number of time periods so that it would be a little bit easier for us to understand what we're doing it. Yeah, and it's completely okay if they coincide here. They will not interfere between each other. So here num time, if I will put here 0, here num time will be this number, and here it will maybe 0. So pretty much it doesn't matter how you name it in here, because it's a completely separate block which is not connected with it. And now let's take it off here, because we already put inside the data. So we'll just write some code, and we'll write end. Okay, what we want to do, we want of each element, so we want that if we refer at a specific point of time, we get MA, which can be either 0 if the time is less than the number of days I used here, or actually the moving average of the last 50 days. So we're going to refer to the specific, so pretty much what we are writing here right now, we are referring to the specific element in the vector of MA, or matrix MA, which is going to be equal to find the average, you just type mean of prices starting from time minus days to time. And that's it. This formula here, it will calculate the average of the prices starting from 50 days ago till now. And here you see we added 1. So imagine now time starts from days plus 1. So then it will be, here it will be 1, and then it will be 51. So after we have calculated this, we're going to take a look of how the moving average strategy will look. And so as we have talked in our basics video of in then else rule, you can recall that we're applying if then else, and if the price is more or equal than moving average for the last 50 days, then we're including the stock to our list. Otherwise, we do not include the stock to our list. And let's take a look how we are going to do it. So back to our code, and maybe we can even have it in here. Yes. So and again, we're also going to do it for every time point. So let's start from applying it for every stock. So for every stock means we need to apply for loop. So for let's say ID equal 1 to total number of stocks, we want to apply moving average. Yeah, I always like to write end so that then I'm always so that I'm not forgetting it. So now let's take a look. So then we just take a look here. So if the price, so if now we're referring to our database, stock data, then we're referring to the field in our database. If we take a look, so here to the field, yeah, to, for example, 1, 2, or 3, and this is the number of stock. This is pretty much ID we're using. Let's get back here. So ID. Now we're referring to prices. We're taking prices, and then we're taking the price at a specific point of time. And if this is more or equal to, again we're referring back to stock data. Excuse me, stock data ID. But now we're referring it to MA at time, at a specific point of time, and usually I like to put them into the brackets. Then you need to include the stock to our list. Then include, then let's say there is a buy signal, and else no buy signal. So do not include into portfolio. And again end. So one of you may ask, okay, but we are not doing anything, we just commented it. We need to create some kind of temporary portfolio, let's say, which will store some values. For example, we will mark at least the stock that we are doing it. So we're going to say temporary portfolio, which consists of the stock which has a moving average rule signal, buy signal, and we will call temp port. And for now, let it just be as a matrix of zeros, because if there is no ID, then it just has 0. Then we take zeros. And we just say number of stocks, because we want to have a self-read stock, and 1. We're going to use it later in our loop, in this loop. This is why we're not creating it for all the time periods, because this is for temporary use. And we want to add a stock to our portfolio. Then let's say the temporary portfolio position ID is equal 1. Otherwise it would be equal to 0. Yeah, for now we're going to do it like that. We're going to change it a little bit, not this one, but this one. So, but for now it's okay. So pretty much what it does, it creates a matrix which has which number of rows is equal to the total number of stocks, and then if the stock has a buy signal, it changes 0 to 1. Otherwise, if it doesn't have a buy signal, it writes 0 instead. This one is quite crucial because we're going to use the same variable for each interaction, for each time period, for each stock. This is why it's important that we have kind of this writing and setting it to 0. So let's say we were holding one stock, let's say Sandvik, which had a buy signal, but then the buy signal disappeared. So we want to be sure that we will cross it out from our portfolio if it was there. If it was not, then it will just override 0. So it's not big deal. And so let's take a look here. We did this first bullet point. Now we need to do it for every time point. So every time point, each time point. It means that we have to do again for loop, but now we're going to apply it for time, and we're going to say that it's going to be equal from 1 to the number of time, because we know we have predetermined our number of time beforehand. And then don't forget end. Also, I like it to be in this type of way, so that it's easier to see how the loops are unfolding. And you just select it and press tab, and it arranges everything. Also, you can do in MATLAB, you can do something like this. You press here and it hides the code, which is also very useful if you have a lot of loop in loop in loop, so that you can fold it in and then just write the code. And let's say here we are applying moving average rule. And yeah, the structure is if then else. Well, there is no and then. Pretty much instead of then, it just reads everything between if and else. And just these 3 dots, they shall be put into the brackets. Otherwise, parentheses. Excuse me. Otherwise, it will be causing some errors. Okay, well, we are done with this as well. So let's take a look what we have done today. We have crossed out the second logical block, and we have the list of selected stocks, and also we have crossed out a big loop which we're going to use for the all data points. In the next video, we are going to talk about Sharpe Ratio. We're going to calculate the Sharpe Ratio and apply the Sharpe Ratio filtering on our stocks. So please press here to play next video. Otherwise, thank you for watching and have a nice day. Goodbye.